As big, chunky 7-seat SUVs go, I think this is probably one of the best looking and best all-round models out there. But allow me to elaborate. So the 5008 is mechanically very similar to its smaller brother, the 3008, and its brother from another mother, the Vauxhall Grandland X, if you take that bit out. And that is a very good thing, because there's plenty to shout about with both of those models. Now, for 2021, Peugeot has given its 5008 a midlife facelift, with the majority of the changes affecting its exterior styling. Peugeot's basically had a rethink about what a modern road-dwelling concept car should look like, and to good effect. I mean, the lines, dashes and slashes all over this new front end are very nice indeed. And they've also incorporated standard LED headlamps and tail lamps to all 5008 models, which is being worked into this new design. Another note on styling, I like the way Peugeot has styled out the length of the 5008 with this extended glass here. It helps hide any big bottom chunky C-pillar aesthetics you sometimes get with 7-seaters. Also, apologies for how dirty the car is. Believe it or not, it was washed half an hour ago, but that's British weather for you. Anyway, nice wide opening doors, always worth a mention. Now, as soon as you sit in here, you are completely engulfed by Peugeot's iCockpit design. In a good way. You've got the sporty steering wheel, the aviator style switches here, and a nice wood trim that wraps right around the cabin and brings all those design elements together. Now, on the tech front, as part of the 5008's facelift, Peugeot has boosted the size of the touchscreen from 8 inches to 10 inches on all but the entry-level active models. Now, just as important as the touchscreen is the digital display behind the steering wheel, which can be customized to display as much or as little information as you want. And this screen behind the steering wheel really does help elevate the 5008 and give it somewhat of a Germanic quality. And speaking of Germanic qualities, actually, there's a few little details in here, like the center armrest with a soft closing action, the fact that the doors have a reassuring thunk to them, and just generally the materials in here, even the plastics, are really high quality. And even at night, the ambient light in the 5008's got a sort of Mercedes vibe to it. Now, kit in here is excellent across the board, with even entry-level models getting the likes of parking sensors and a reversing camera, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and dual-zone aircon. Now, we've actually got the flagship GT Premium model, which comes with an array of ostentatious luxuries like Napa leather seats, which are massaging and heated. We've also got a premium sound system and a 360-degree parking camera. To be honest, anything above the entry-level trim will suit most people, as the second Allure trim brings this 10-inch touchscreen and sat-nav. Practicality in here is good all round. You've got some nice large door bins which are big enough to fit a big flask like that. You've also got some convenient cubbies dotted around. This armrest has some nice deep storage as well. Unfortunately, the glove box, shock horror, is pants, because that fuse box is in the way. Now, on the subject of having a little moan, I just want to make a comment on these switches and the touchscreen. Now, I did say they looked aesthetically cool, which they do, but functionality-wise, I'm just not sure they work. I mean, there's just something that feels alien about focusing your attention when you're driving on buttons down here, only to then have to refocus your attention up here on the touchscreen. And this touchscreen as well, although it's 10 inches wide, it is quite narrow, so seeing specific keys and icons can be a bit difficult. And this isn't just a criticism on the 5008, this is more of a general criticism on minimalistic interiors. While they do look nice, sometimes functionality wise they can be a bit tricky. Anyway, again, nice wide opening doors, always a bonus. You actually get built-in sun visors as well, which is nice. Now, once you get back here, it does feel really airy. I mean, you've got loads of leg room, your feet can just about fit under the seat in front, and headroom in a standard 5008 is really good. Unfortunately, we've got the panoramic roof, which looks great and lets a lot of light in, but it does eat into headroom quite a bit, so I'd avoid that. But generally, you do sit nice and jacked up, so you can see the road ahead and see the front, and it does feel very nice and very relaxed back here. I also like the fact that the window extends just past your shoulder, which again lets more light in and just makes it feel nice and airy. Now, a few things on storage. You've got some net in here for storage. You've also got these tray tables included, which is handy for kids. There's also decent sized door bins, and for practicality, you've got 2 USB charging ports down here and 2 bonus storage compartments under this floor. I also like the fact that that wood trim from the front is continued into the back. I mean, it adds a bit of colour and intrigue if nothing else. Now, speaking of that flat floor, because it's flat, it makes moving about back here very easy to do. And thankfully, your middle passenger won't have to sit like Charlie Chaplin with the feet sat like that. And elbow room's really good as well. So good, in fact, that you can sit in the middle with a child or baby seat either side of you and still have plenty of wiggle room. Now, for added flexibility, these rear seats actually slide back and forth and recline, although they don't recline very much, which makes it a bit pointless. I actually found myself looking over the seats to make sure that, well, nothing was blocking them. Anyway, onto the third row. So conveniently, these seats slide and tilt like that to make it easier to climb in. But once you are back here, it is very cramped. So it's best reserved for kids or adults you don't like. I mean, you can't slide this seat, as I shown you earlier. You can slide it. There's a bit of flexibility, but I mean, best case scenario, you get a super mini amount of legroom back here. There are a few cubbies for the third row, but God knows what you'd use them for. Oh, thank God. Now, onto perhaps the best part of the 5008 Practicality and how all of those seats factor in. So, with all 7 seats in place, boot space, well, it's pretty rubbish. But once you fold these seats down, put these little flaps in place, you get a very SUV-worthy amount of space at around 1,000 litres. But it gets better. Now, once you fold this second row down, you even get little flaps here to bridge the gap between the seats. You get around 2,000 litres to play around with. Now, to take things a step further, you can uncover the 6th and 7th seats again, and you can, if you want, completely remove them to free up another 100 litres or so, and you're basically left with a van. You can even fold that front seat down so you can get objects up to 10 feet in length, and there's even a nice low load lip as well. Now, there are 2 small complaints I've got. This parcel shelf, although very, very easy to take out, there's not really anywhere to store it when you're not using it. And this boot lid is actually quite horizontal. I mean, unless you're a short guy like me, you might have to duck when loading things in and out of the car. So let's quickly get the hybrid variant of the 5008 out the way, which is to say there isn't one, because with those 7 seats it's not possible to fit the hybrid system in. Plus, Peugeot has got a perfectly good 5-seat SUV plug-in hybrid in the 3008, so for the 5008 it's just petrol and diesel that's available. Now, today we are driving the Blue HDI 2-litre 177 horsepower diesel, which is mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox. And this diesel's got quite a bit of poke, and this EAT8 automatic is incredibly smooth up and down the gears, no surprise there. And in fact, this steering wheel, this 2-pronged steering wheel, makes the 5008 easier to drive as well, as you can actually fit your hand through the middle of it, which makes doing manoeuvres much easier, something older Peugeot iCockpit models and their 3-pronged steering wheels have lacked. And speaking of effortless, a lot of 7-seaters do tend to feel cumbersome and compromising to drive, but not the 5008. My exact words when taking it round the first few bends were, oh, wow, okay, because there is no need for how well this drives. I mean, there's no avoiding the fact that you're driving a heavy car, but the steering is just so responsive, and body control is kept in check at all times, even round tighter bends. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche saying, oh, you'll want to take the B road home, but yeah. I mean, you can even throw it into sport mode and enjoy the heightened throttle response and fake grr from the speakers, although after you get your jollies, you'll probably turn it off after 5 minutes and apologise to your kids in the back for trying to be cool. Now, I've actually driven the 1.6 litre petrol and 2 litre diesel 5008 back to back, and it's got to be said, I much prefer the diesel. It just feels like it puts its power down better, and it even feels like it handles better. Whether that's because it's 100 kilograms heavier or they've made certain tweaks to the suspension, Or maybe it's just in my head, I don't know. But I couldn't believe how much more I enjoyed driving the diesel pretty much instantly. Now, for those who are looking at the diesel for company car reasons, the 2 litre emits 154 grams per kilometre and claims a combined 51 miles per gallon, which you should get pretty comfortably. Now, tax-wise, that means you're looking at a 34% BAK tax bracket for 2021 and 2022. Now, there is a 130 horsepower 1.5 litre diesel available, which is slightly more affordable when it comes to the tax brackets, but to be honest, you'll probably end up paying a little bit more for the 2 litre, purely down to the extra performance and smoothness it offers. Now, a few other small notes on driving characteristics. Cabin noise in here is kept pretty well in check. You do get a familiar diesel hum at motorway speeds, but nothing to shout about. However, you do get quite a lot of wind whistle from those large wing mirrors, but I'm more concerned with the fact that they do give you a bit of a blind spot when pulling out of junctions. Big 7-seat SUVs are rarely cool, but this one is. It looks good inside and out, it's good to drive, and its flatbed practicality will likely give you a newfound appreciation for camping. And in fact, it's probably one generation or so away from being unbeatable practicality-wise. But what's cooler than all of that is that the 5008 will cost you about half of what you pay for a similarly spec'd Audi Q7 or Volvo XC90. Half! And with its stylish, tech-orientated nuances, I don't think it's unreasonable to say fans of luxury brands will be intrigued by it. And okay, you could argue that you pay a premium for a German or Swedish badge on the front of your car, but are badge gloating rights really worth an extra 30 grand? Really? 30 grand?